What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Marriage and Medicine. On today's video, we would like to just answer a couple questions that we've gotten over time, mostly on Instagram. Again, feel free to subscribe. And you can follow us at Marriage and Medicine on Instagram.
Okay, the first question we got was, is it possible for someone to get married or commit to someone in a serious relationship while they're in residency, specifically 1 year away from their board exam? So that would mean the person is in their final year of residency and they're going to be making that transition to an attending. This particular person, they said they were dating at the time, but they just want to know, is that a possible thing or not? Which I could probably start with that one.
Go for it.
I definitely feel like it is possible to be in a relationship. I guess it kind of depends on what this person may want. Like, if they're wanting to get married within this year, that may be a little too stressful for the person they're dating to handle right now, because the thought of trying to plan a wedding while you're finishing residency and trying to get a job, it just might not be possible for them to kind of balance all of that right now. So that could be possible, but just to be in a committed relationship and be dating, I don't feel like that is like a make or break thing. Even if you're going from like dating to just getting engaged, I don't feel like that is like that big of a thing that can like hinder you in residency. So I would just say it depends on whatever your situation is. If you're someone that's like planning to try to get married, maybe now might not be the best time, but I guess you kind of have to figure out what you think y'all's best time is, because that's going to vary for everybody.
Yeah. In medicine in general, there's never a good time for anything. You're always going to be busy. There's always going to be something else going on. And so whatever you put your focus to, you can do. If you are focused on, you can focus on two different things at the same time as well. Like, you can focus on being a great clinician while also having a family life. Those are two separate things. You have to have both. You have to be able to balance those two. If you are focused completely on the medicine side, you are going to burn out quickly. You have to be able to focus on that as well as family life. And by family life, that involves relationships, possibly getting engaged, getting married, all those kind of things. It's something that you have to be able to do. And of course, if you care about that person enough, you're going to make the time to do so. You're going to make that commitment to take those next steps to continue to stay in a committed relationship altogether. And so it's definitely possible to do. I would say, from my standpoint, it has helped things. Coming out of, or just during residency in general, like having the ability to have somebody else at home when you get off from work is just invaluable. You need it altogether.
The next question we got is, does it get any better? Like, by it, they mean the life. Journey, life, everything. Just, does it get better?
Yeah, no, for sure. We answered this a little bit on a previous video, but it definitely does get better. Altogether, from a job standpoint, it is great to get to the point where you just have more autonomy. You get to do what you want to do. You kind of get to that point at the end of residency where you feel confident in your abilities and you know what you need to do. And so not having to run that by other individuals is very nice for efficiency, for time saving, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of get rid of a lot of the headaches from that standpoint. And of course, the pay. I mean, going from residency pay to attending pay, no question, it gets better. With that, of course, you have other things that your money's going to get pulled to, because with money comes, you have to start investing. You have to start paying for just different insurances, all that kind of stuff. But even after that, you're going to have plenty of money to do whatever you essentially need to do. So it definitely gets better altogether.
And from a spouse's standpoint or a significant other standpoint, it will get better in terms of like time. Like, once you go from residency to attending, you do get a little bit more time. Now, I will say, maybe depending on what specialty your person is in, that time might not change that much, but overall, the time does get better. They're home a little bit more often. Of course, the pay is better. So if you are in one income family, that will help with that aspect. I feel like just overall, everything does get better. You kind of learn to relax a little bit and just there's not as many stressors, I feel like. So try to hang in there. I know it's like that's something you always hear. Hang on, it's almost done. You'll be there soon. And it's like when I'm in the middle of it, I don't feel like I'm going to be there soon.
Yeah, you will.
But I promise once you finally get to the end of your journey, it will all be worth it, and it will definitely be better than what you might be going through right now. Our third question is, what is the difference between being an emergency medicine doctor and being a physician assistant in the emergency department?
Yeah, so kind of briefly, in order to become a PA, you go through a curriculum that is, you still learn a lot of things that you would in medical school. It's just not the full kind of medical school curriculum. And then at the end of it, you essentially have the ability to work within the healthcare field, but you work under the scope of an attending. And of course, EM attending, you go through medical school, you complete your residency, and then you're an attending at that point. And so the difference is when you are working in the emergency department, from an attending standpoint, you are the individual who are mostly taking care of the most critical patients. You take care of everybody, of course, but when those really sick patients come in that are needing procedures, needing a lot of attention, the EM attending a lot of times are who are going to see those patients. The PA's role a lot of times in emergency settings is to see mostly the lower acuity patients at times. It also kind of depends on where you are, but the level 4s and 5, which are kind of the lower acuity, like lacerations, dog bites, just different things of that nature, that they are very good at handling essentially. When it comes to the sicker patients, a lot of times they may not see those patients because the EM attending are usually going to take care of them. But even in that scope, you are still having to sign your notes over to an attending. If you have questions about certain things, sometimes the EM attending will still go and see your patients after you see them. So it's almost as if you're functioning almost around the level of a resident in that instance, but you are able to see a significant amount of people. And that, again, also varies based off of where you are. And so if you're working in a more community setting, a more rural setting, you will have much more autonomy. You would have the ability to do certain procedures at times. You'll get to see some sick patients. But if you are anywhere in an academic setting where there's residents involved and all that kind of things, you're probably not going to see the sicker of the patients. You're not going to get to see and do kind of more of the fun stuff, the kind of thrill-seeking type stuff that you kind of get as an emergency medicine attending.
Also, a PA's journey is a lot shorter than a doctor's journey is, and the pay obviously is different between the two.
Yeah, for sure. Don't get me wrong. You still get paid very well as a PA in the grand scheme of things, but it's just not where an attending would get paid.
The next question is, how many hours a week did you work while you were in residency?
Yeah, so that kind of varied. So in emergency medicine, we do different rotations in different fields. So we spend time on the OB-GYN floor. We spend time in the different ICUs, the surgical ICU, the medical ICU, pediatric ICU. We go to different places. And so it would vary. So anytime we were on those rotations where we were in the ICU, of course, it was a long day. We got there around 6 a.m. and we didn't leave usually until about 6 p.m. So it was about a 12-hour shift essentially. On OB, it was a 14-hour overnight. So it's even longer from that standpoint. And a lot of times you work 6 days a week. So you get that one day off essentially that you're having to spend time basically sleeping, catching up on sleep. Honestly, you don't really do much during that day off. Half the time it doesn't feel like a day off, but that is the day you get off. When it comes to emergency medicine rotations, that is also institution specific. So where I work, we did 9-hour shifts, and we probably will work about 23 shifts, anywhere between 21 and 23 shifts a month. And that's not the case on a lot of other specialties. Most of the other ones who are doing inpatient stuff, you're going to work 6 days a week, but emergency medicine is a little bit different. That's essentially how much we would work.
Our next question is, what is an attending? So basically, what is the difference between a resident and a attending?
Yeah, it's a lot of people don't know what the medical journey is like, and so we kind of get that question a lot. So essentially, once you go through your 4 years of medical school, Then you go through what's called a residency, which again is when you're training within your specialty. At the end of medical school, you apply for different residencies, whether it's emergency medicine, internal medicine, family medicine, whatever specialty it is that you're planning on going into. You apply for that during the 4th year of your medical journey, your medical school, and then you get accepted into a residency program. And then you complete your residency program. And once you have completed residency training, and that is when you become an attending. And as a resident, you work under the scope of an attending. And so once you're an attending, you will have likely other residents or other physician assistants, whoever, working under you. You are essentially the top level at that point. And in order to become board certified, basically most specialties, you have to take a certain test. So it's a board certification test. In emergency medicine, you have to take a written board exam, and you also have to take an oral board exam. And again, that varies based off of what specialty you're in. But once you complete that, you are officially a board certified attending at that point.
And overall, like, you don't, when you go to the doctor, you're probably not going to hear doctors referred to as attendings, because that's, like when you go to a regular family medicine doctor, you're not like, hey, I'm here to see my attending doctor. Like I'm here to see my doctor. So you're not necessarily, from a patient standpoint, you might not hear that word like attending doctor, but that you might hear more so resident physician versus I'm the attending physician. Like the attending would just come and say, hey, I'm Dr. So-and-so. But the residents might introduce themselves as I'm resident physician so-and-so.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how you know who is what. They're both still doctors,
right? Whether
you're a resident or you're an attending. The only difference is that the residents are getting their specialized training for their specialty, and attendings already finished theirs.
Right.
And our last question is, what types of things would I need if I want to start my own YouTube channel or my own podcast? Like, what types of things do we use? And really, you don't need much. So one of the first things we use is a ring light, because we typically film at night, and so that provides us really good lighting. You don't have to have one. So let's say if you film during the day, you can use natural sunlight. You'll want to film ideally in front of, facing a window with the blinds open so that the natural light can be seen in your video. But a ring light is something that we have. You can get them on Amazon. You could even get, if you want to take it up a notch and be super fancy, get the little photography lights, those big square ones, but you don't need that. The second thing we use is my iPhone. Not something fancy, but I would recommend, if you have a newer iPhone, you can use it to record. So if you have like the iPhone 8 or older, I would not recommend filming. I used to have a 7 Plus. That camera is bad. So I have an 11, but we use my phone to record on. You don't have to get a camera. If you have one, feel free to use it. But don't feel like you have to go out and get a camera to start filming for YouTube. So I typically will use our iPhone. You can use the forward facing to see yourself, or if you want better quality, you can flip it around and use the back camera. And then outside of that, to edit, we use this app on the iPhone called Viva Video. That's an editing app where we can cut out scenes that we don't want. You can add little like stickers on there and music, all kinds of stuff. If you don't have that, it is free. I believe you can upgrade it to get more features if you want to. Another good editing app is iMovie that automatically comes with your iPhone. And InShot is another one that you can use for editing. So nothing super fancy. All of those apps are free. There are, of course, fancier apps out there that you could use, or fancier programs, but those are the basic ones that we typically will use.
Yeah, and that's mainly it. But if you are planning on starting something like a YouTube, or just starting whatever kind of social media type things that you plan on doing, do not go out and buy all this different stuff. Don't go and blow a bunch of money. Don't blow a bunch of money until you realize if this is something that you are wanting to keep doing. It would suck if you were to buy thousands of dollars worth of stuff and then you barely, like, you start a YouTube and 5 videos in, you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. It's not worth it. Take the time to just use what you have available to start off.
Yeah, I feel like people think that to do YouTube or podcast, whatever, even a business, they feel like I have to have all these super nice, fancy things and then I can start. And you can just start with what you have. Over time, you can invest and, get nicer equipment if you feel like you need it, but don't feel like you need to have the nicest of everything at the very beginning to start.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. That was just a couple questions that we had off our Instagram. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave it in a comment. See you guys in the next video.